Well, it's 2:30 and it's time for our Insert Lifestyle, and we're chatting to David Henderson from the Cape. He's from MYeBooks. Dave, how are you today?
Always good. Always good. What is clouds looking like today?
Well, it's overcast and it feels like winter, but we love the weather. We're free staters, so we
You
can deal
guys
with
always
it.
seem to have you have your own climate that side. Whenever it's raining that side, it's always happy and sunny where I am. I think I would definitely rather have what you guys have.
Well, Dave, we're going to chat about authors today. I want to know, it's currently such a fierce competition in the book world. In what ways can we support our most beloved authors?
In what way can we support authors? I think the obvious way is going to be the best one, which is buy their books. I've seen a couple books recently where once they're released, people kind of circulate them, or you find a sort of PDF copy available online. And I think piracy is going to be the number one thing to avoid. I think shopping local is another thing we can do as well. So I think deliberately looking for South African authors in your genre and then supporting them is also a great way. South African authors are slowly starting to migrate to Amazon. And so just supporting them by buying their books. Often, obviously, authors have more than just the books available. They might have merchandise available, and every little bit helps.
Dave, which format of books bring in the most revenue for an author? Is it going to be an eBook or is it going to be a paperback, hard copy? If I'm not fussy about the format, what would you recommend?
So, to help the listeners understand the ingredients that go into royalties for an author, the first thing is yes, what book format? And the various formats are eBook, it's paperback. You could get a hardcover as well. You could get an audiobook version of the book. So each one of those formats gives an author a different payout. So typically, something like an eBook typically gives the highest royalties to an author because there's no production. You don't need to, make another ebook. Once you've made it, it just exists. Paperbacks are less royalties, so because of the cost of printing, the amount of money that ends up in the author's pocket is a bit less. And I think possibly audiobooks, although a lot of people are consuming audiobooks, I think they pay the author out some of the least of the other formats. So I would say ebook generally is quicker, it's easier, and the author gets sort of a higher, up to 70% royalties from that. I think depending on how the author chooses to publish, that plays a part as well. Because if I've chosen to self-publish and I'm in control as the author, it means I can get paid up to 70% of every ebook that gets sold, or 60% of any paperback that you might buy from Amazon as well. Where if I've signed a contract with a publisher, that means the amount of money that I could make is automatically going to be cut, not in half, but definitely cut down. Because, whatever book you sell in a store, the amount an author gets at the end of that process, if you've gone through a traditional publisher, can be as little as 10 or 15%.
Wow.
So typically, an author who self-publishes stands to earn a bigger cut of the pie. Obviously, depending on the contract terms you agree to, a traditionally published author earns, quite a small percentage of whatever book you might buy from a bookstore. I think it depends on where you might buy the book from and the format you might choose, and then if the author published themselves or if they chose to partner with a traditional publisher.
Well, Dave, do I help my favorite author when I leave an honest, thoughtful review on their book? A book that I loved, or am I doing damage to them in some way?
I think an author needs to have a thick skin. So I don't think a reader can really do damage to a serious author. I think the worst thing that can happen with a review is a reader leaves an unhappy review. I didn't enjoy the book. It was terrible. There were spelling mistakes, whatever the case is. Now, authors often take the feedback to heart. It's obvious. It's your baby. It's someone telling you that you've got an ugly child. It's going to hurt. But maybe they have a point.
Yeah.
And so I know a lot of authors who take that feedback and it really, really hurts them. But if you're in this for the long haul, you can't let a criticism, even if it's an unfair criticism, get you down too much. Now, it's always recommended that an author doesn't respond to a negative review, or not respond immediately, or don't respond angry. You can acknowledge what people say. So a lot of criticisms actually do have a basis. You know, someone might say, listen, I found spelling mistakes. Someone might say, listen, you said this book was comprehensive, but it's actually quite small. And so a lot of feedback readers give actually does have, it's based on truth. And so an author should take those reviews and learn from them. And so, yes, leaving a review where you bought the book, but I mean, obviously this applies, it's easier to leave feedback online on a bookshop like Amazon. And it's a great learning curve for an author to go through these reviews, even where they aren't very good or happy reviews, and kind of learn from them and respond to the readers going, hey man, thank you, I really appreciate the feedback. I'm going to make sure that I correct the mistake or I do a better job in my next book, for example. So yeah, leaving a review, it helps the author get better, and it also helps if you leave a review, for example, within an ecosystem like Amazon. The more reviews a book has, the more important Amazon knows this book is. You know, so a book with 100 reviews with a book versus a book with 1. Amazon knows to weight the book with 100 reviews more than a book with 1 review. So it ranks the book with more reviews higher in search results because it knows it's more popular. And so by leaving a review, you're actually helping the author's book gain prominence in a store like Amazon. So it helps the author more than you know. And I think the worst thing possible for an author, especially a self-publishing author, the worst thing I think is silence. To put a book out there and actually not hear anything. It's kind of heartbreaking.
Response, yeah, that's.
And so it's simply giving feedback to an author, even if it was as simple as dropping an email off their website to the author and saying thank you. You have no idea the difference it makes to someone who writes in isolation.
Well, Dave, some of the guys have merchandise stores. Now, do I have a certain obligation toward the author if I bought their merchandise, like perhaps maybe that awesome book-based T-shirt, that strikes up a conversation or becomes word-of-mouth advertising, and I worried in public, is there obligation to behave well?
I don't think anything I say is going to change what people do. But, yeah, you're right. A lot of authors do have merchandise beyond just the book. So we've recently helped some authors where there's T-shirts being made, there's cups being made. There's things you can order directly from a website. So obviously the first step is the author needs to be smart enough to have their own website. The second step is the author needs to have e-commerce enabled on the website as well so that you can actually buy these things. And yeah, as we touched on, it's great to support local authors and to get this merchandise because the more you support, the more they write. So it's obviously that self-fulfilling prophecy. In terms of behaving when you have the T-shirt on, I mean, that's obviously down to whatever you're going to do anyway. But yeah, going back to supporting local authors, it's a great way to support, an author whose book you enjoyed. The first is that review. But if there is merchandise available, and if you're a smart author writing hopefully more than one book, you should hopefully be selling stuff as well beyond just one book. Yeah, buying that merchandise, supporting them is a great first step.
Well, I do promise if I wear my MYeBooks cap that I'll always be on good behavior.
Have you actually worn that cap again? I'm actually curious.
I promise. I've worn them, and especially yesterday. It was so hot in Clarence, and I went to...
I hope so, because I know you have that Maluti FM cap you gave me, and I've been wearing that around Cape Town, that nice maroon cap with the Maluti FM logo emblazoned across the front. So I've been doing my part to help your station promotion.
Thank you.
While in Cape Town.
Dave, I'm very chuffed to hear that. Well, we're first going to a music break and then we'll be back. So just hold the line for me. That was Adam Landberg with Fever. Well, we're chatting to Dave Henderson. Dave, you're going to tell us about a book called Blooming of a Broken Flower. And it's by a writer called Nazareth Wilson. Did I say that right?
You absolutely did. Yeah,
Well,
it's a recent book we've helped Nasreet get out to readers. So Nasreet is obviously a local writer, a South African writer, and we were just speaking about how important it is for people to support local. And so it's actually her debut novel. So it's her first time writing a fiction book, and it's a touching story of a young girl finding her way in life. So it's a coming-of-age book featuring a female protagonist, sort of a female lead character. And Nasreet wrote the story, and we were lucky enough to help her get it out into the world. So it's a beautiful book, a touching book, and a sad book in some places. But it's a great first novel from Nasreet, and it is available as you would expect from Amazon. And Nasreet also has a great looking author website, which is just her first name, NAZERIT.com. Anyone who is interested in a great fictional tale is more than welcome to hop on and get that book as an ebook or a paperback format.
so Dave, I walked into our Maluti FM studios today, and it was just dressed up in Valentine's gear, all hearts and roses. So tell me, what is MYeBook doing for Valentine's Day?
I think Valentine's Day this year is going to be very confusing, won't it? Because either you've been kind of under lockdown with your spouse and you want to murder them, or you've been under lockdown with no spouse and it's been kind of frustrating. So I actually have no idea which way Valentine's Day is going to swing.
It's going to be a difficult one, yeah.
I think it's going to be a tricky one. I think maybe Uber Eats is going to be kept busy, ordering some specific meal. But otherwise, I think it's going to be like no other Valentine's Day we had, because last year was actually, I think, pre-lockdown was Valentine's Day. So, I think this year is going to be one to remember.
Dave,
or forget, I suppose.
What is the most interesting gift you ever received on a Valentine's Day?
Interesting gift. I got a box of Smarties when I was in primary school.
Oh, my
I never
goodness.
actually found out who sent that delightful box of Smarties. But I think when you're in primary school, so I was in one of the early grades, I think I didn't really even understand kind of what love or affection or a girlfriend was. So, it was a memorable first Valentine's for me.
It's going to haunt you forever.
Haunted by Smarties is not the worst thing in the world.
Haunt you that you never found out who it came from.
Yeah, I think the person never had a good follow-up strategy. Normally you'd want to let the person know, hey, I got you something. But, I guess my class talk was a little too quiet. So, unfortunately, I never found out who it was.
Well, Dave, it was lovely talking to you. Keep on wearing that Maluti FM cap. Represent us there in the Cape, and we'll follow up next week. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. I'll speak to you guys again soon.
Have a lovely afternoon. That was Dave Henderson from MYeBooks, and he is in Cape Town. You can go and look on his Facebook page, MYeBooks, and you can contact them if you want to have your ebook published.